Hi, Alan Cox here. What if you could take 50 documents, 6 emails, 3 meetings, a OneNote notebook, a Teams conversation, and have Copilot become an expert on all of it in under a minute? And how many of you have ever spent 20 minutes searching through emails and Teams chats and meeting notes and documents and OneNote just to find the answer to a simple question? Well, that's exactly the problem that Copilot Notebook solves. Instead of hunting across your organization's information, you bring all um, your your content, your documents, your emails, your meetings, your chats, and notes into a single notebook. Copilot then understands the full context. It can analyze, summarize, find gaps, even create action plans and visuals around that information. That's honed in to specific areas of reference that you bring into the notebook. Think of it as a kind of a dedicated AI analyst focused on one project, maybe one customer or one business problem. Today we're going to talk about Copilot Notebooks. I'm going to show you kind of what's changing, or what's currently in change process, and how we work with that and how it can work for you. But it's one of my favorite features, and it's really maturing now. So that's what we're going to focus on today is Copilot Notebooks, and we're also going to look at how it integrates into OneNote. So we're going to take a look at that. That's our focus today. Let's get started. All right, here I am in my Copilot app, and if you haven't seen it already, they've already changed notebooks from here. It was up here in the app launcher. It's set right here next to create. It is now moved to here, so they're all already moving this around. There's also going to be some visual changes here, and it's interesting. If we were to go into notebooks here, and I'm just going to drop into one of my notebooks. Let's drop into this Mark 8 notebook. I drop in here, I've got conversations, creations, marketing plan, okay, and then references. So these references are what I want this notebook to be grounded in. So when I ask Copilot a question here, if I were to ask it anything, it's only going to source these reference files. These files, they could be emails, they could be Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, chat files, all kinds of meeting notes, all kinds of stuff, right? So that's references, but everything I ask Copilot here in the notebook is going to reference that. Creations are things that you can now create. So you can create pages, you can create infographics, you can create a lot of things. But the interesting thing is this view is going to be changing. This is not what this is what my tenant looks like. Yours could be very different. In fact, I'll give you an example of what it would look like. And it's funny because if I take a notebook that has been shared with me from a colleague, we'll say Liam here has shared a notebook with me. Now it's not going to open because I've actually removed this notebook from Liam. But what it does do is you will see it's going to give me an error here, but it's going to open up. Okay, so because it's not available, that's fine. But watch what it does. It still puts me in this modern look. And now, if I were to go into that same notebook, which was this Mark 8 client here, we'll see that the very different view here. Here are my references. Here's the created content. But I've got all of these capabilities here. Okay, I didn't have that a minute ago. For some reason, right now in my tenant, it only happens when I open it from a shared location. And if I click out of it and go to a different notebook, right back to the way it was, and it's not that exciting. This is the new look that's coming. And so yours may look like this now all the time. The interesting thing is if I were to open this notebook inside of OneNote, it will look just like this. And we'll look at that here in just a second. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, regardless of the view, regardless of view, we're going to go in and we're going to go here and I'm going to create a new notebook. Now, when I create this new notebook, and I'm going to call this, we're going to do a Contoso Copilot governance review, right? So we're doing a Copilot governance review, and I want all of my collateral, my artifacts, everything from the from assessments, from conversations, everything about this particular client. I want to kind of put this into sort of like this. Think of it like it was a project folder or a customer folder or something. But now I can, but I've got everything in this one notebook I'm going to put here. So we're going to go next here. Now it can ask me for, do I want any chats I want to bring into this? So anything we've talked about before. Do I want to bring in anything about it? I'm not going to. I'm just going to create the notebook right now. Okay, and now notice it kind of goes back to this old view here, but here are my references. I have no references here. And under the new look, you'll actually be able to, the modern look, you'll be able to drag and drop files. I cannot do that. It looks like it can, but it actually doesn't drop them in there. So what I have to do, well, it actually is. It wasn't doing that just literally a minute ago. Okay, so good. So I'm adding these reference files. So these reference files, and I'm going to try and drag this message one in here. Last I checked, MSG files were not allowed. You could add message files, you could add references, but I'm going to add this one and see if it will allow it to happen. Usually it has given me an error. I'm seeing if it will actually do that. It will not. Let's do it this way and see if it will allow me to do it. Let's go here. Got some. Okay, it won't. So it's not the file type. If I do all files here and select this, it's not going to allow it, I don't believe. Okay. Either way, it's not allowing me. So, all right. So we have that, and we have no creations, and we can start chatting about this. Now I can go in and I can add a chat, but that's basically it. So if I were to go in and ask it some questions about this, it will return with that. So that it return information only from there. Okay. Now I'm going to do something kind of interesting here because I can go over to, so that's my notebook, and I'll show you some things what we can do with that notebook. But if I were to open this notebook inside of OneNote, right here you'll see Copilot Notebooks. If you're logged into the same tenant, same account, you'll see Copilot Notebooks. And if I go here, and we should see that that notebook. Okay, notice the view here. Notice this view. Okay, there's the Copilot governance review, what we just created. But notice this look here looks very much like what I showed you initially, how Copilot looks. And this is the way it's going to look inside of Copilot, in the notebooks inside the app. Okay, you've got all of these options here. We're going to talk about these options. Right now, it's giving me an overview. It's doing an AI overview of everything that is in these files, these reference files. So it's kind of giving me this high level synopsis of what this folder is about. And so that's what it is currently spinning up and doing now. But again, we look at this at the Copilot side of things. We look at it over here. It's still kind of boring, and so that's but that's getting ready to change again. Funny thing, I go in here and I open this. I open this from a link, and this is going to, of course, give me that error again. but now it will appear in my Copilot app as the modern look. And if I open this up, now this looks much like it does in my OneNote, version of it. And here is that that summary. If I were to look at this in OneNote, we see it looks pretty much the same. And so that's very odd how that is doing that right now. We're kind of this cross between, but your Copilot experience may look exactly like this. It may never change. But if I were to go, to reference and cancel that, or if I were to go to my notebooks and click this notebook again, we see it reverts right back to this old boring look. Don't know why. That's just what's happening right now for me. So once I kind of have this, once I have the notebook created for me, if I'm in this experience, I'm going to go ahead and just go on into OneNote, because I get the full experience here, and I'll explain what this is here as we go through these. All right, so let's take a look at that. So let's look at first of all some chat stuff here. Now, if we add chat, if I were to add a chat to this, I could go over here and we can add some chats. There's not going to be any conversations yet because we've not had any chat. But even if I have a chat over in here in my well, let me show you what I mean by this. If I go here and I say, let's go to chats, open up, let's go here, chat. If I were to have a conversation here, just any chat, I can bring that chat into the context of the notebook. So for example, if I were to go in here and take this here, I can add it to a notebook. Okay. And now we go to this notebook, go here, and there it is. Okay. And I can now, of course, remove from the notebook, and it'll remove it back into chat. But I can do that anywhere I can do that with any chat that I have. So I can bring chats into that conversation, into the notebook as well. And it will, so then when I'm asking Copilot thing, it considers everything, including the chats and the references and all of that. But again, I like to do all of this from here, at least for now, from OneNote, because I can get the full feature set of the notebook. I don't get all of that right now in the Copilot experience. I get it in the OneNote experience. And I'm going to show you some more about what I'm talking about there. So here I am. I'm in the and here's where we can go in and we can add that chat. But if I want to add have more chat here, let's do this. And I want to say, I got some conversations here. What's the main project about? Okay, let's go there. So we're gonna let Copilot kind of do its thing, and it's gonna analyze everything that it sees here, and it's gonna give me kind of a high level overview of the project, which we kind of have already, right? So, but we will let them go based on the documents here. Let's give me the project overview. Business purpose, why the project exists. So it's giving me a whole lot of information. Okay. And so here's all of the chats. And now in this view, we can go over here and we see this chat history related to this project, or related to it. It will show up here in just a second. I give it a second here. Well, it's still running. So it's still running. Over here on the Copilot experience, if we were to go back into this notebook, we'll see if this chat shows up. It should show up there as the okay, there you go. So here is the project over inquiry. So there's the chat that was created, that I created over here. But again, the experience inside of OneNote for Copilot Notebooks is just complete. But like this view, and yours may do it now, but this is exactly how it will look inside of Copilot. You won't have to go over to OneNote unless that's where you rather live. That's totally fine. Some people do, but just know that Copilot Notebooks is going to end up looking very similar to this, if not exactly like this. And I've kind of demoed how it looks in the note in Copilot app itself. So there's that. So there's one chat. And if we go here, we'll see these chats, and there is that chat. I can go back to that chat. Let's continue to get more information about this project. So I can go down here and I can say, what are the biggest risks? Are there any disagreements between? These are just some, now I can create a 5-minute executive briefing based on the content. So if I want to do this, so let's say I'm doing this project, and I want to create this executive briefing. And so it gives me kind of all of that details as I chat, because it's just looking at everything I have in this notebook. If I were to add something in it, it'll we can continue to add additional references and so forth. If I were to create, I can go create a new page. It's like a loop page, but I can create all of these different things here inside. And we're going to take a look at those in just a second. So we can see lots of good information here. There's one other prompt I want to throw in here, and that is I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to say, let's see. I'm going to build a purview governance framework using the findings in this notebook. So just giving it we're just asking it questions now. We're asking prompts, asking Copilot some questions about the data that's in this notebook. So, imagine you've got, project files and artifacts and CSVs you've extracted from here and there. You can put all of that into a notebook, and now you've got this really nice grounded knowledge source for Copilot to just ask it all kinds of questions about, right? So here's a bunch of data back that it gave me, and with all the references, right? With the references that it's only looking at these data points. It's only looking at this as knowledge. So that is the value of Copilot Notebooks here. Okay, so the executive takeaway, all of that. Now, what do we have here? Well, first of all, we can go in, and I'm just going to clean that slate there. We can go in and we can create an audio overview. So this audio overview will go in and will create a summary of it'll create an MP3 file, just an audio file, and it will summarize this entire notebook. So let's say you're not going to have access to this notebook, but you're going to be in a car for a while. You can do an audio overview and get the high level overview of not just one of these documents, but the entire totality of this notebook in an audio format. And it's not reading it; it's giving you a very high level summary, almost podcast style summary of that. Now, mind map is something that I really think is really cool. Mind map kind of analyzes and organizes the data in a way that maps it out in logical containers or structures. I'm going to click this and I'm going to show you what it will do, and then but it takes a few minutes. I'm probably going to have to pause the video and then come right back to it. But let me click this, and we're going to go ahead and let this go for just a second, and then we'll pause. So it's going to take a few minutes, and we can keep working on creating this mind map. Now I'm going to let that go there. While that's happening, let's flip over to our Copilot app and see what's happening over there. And here's the creations. Under creations, we can see this mind map is being built. Okay, but look, it tells us that we cannot open it here. It's not available there yet. Okay, but I'm going to try something. I'm going to go back to this notebook, and I'm going to open this in Copilot, going through these extra steps to give us that kind of that updated view, and see if it will do that. All right, and it's going to tell me it's going to error. That's fine. And then we're going to go to this notebook and see if it opens it like it should here. Okay, so there's the content. This is Copilot now, but once I open it, through that shared link, for some reason it gives me the new look. But when I get out of it, it does not. So still loading this mind map here. I flip. Okay, so here's the mind map. Now I'm looking I'm in the Copilot app. It looks the same way if I'm in the OneDrive, or rather OneNote app. And so here's this Copilot rollout program, strategy, outcomes, governance, security, risk. It's kind of mapping these high level, kind of containerized thoughts. And so strategy, outcome, we can expand that, and it gives us deployment scope, business driver, success measures. If you hover over this or click on it, it will give you some information, define metrics included, and introduce reducing meeting time by 25%, etc. And then we can have Copilot explain that, that mapping and what that is. So that's mind map. Really cool stuff. And we do see that here, as it will show up in the new um, notebook at some point. But I go back to overview. At some point, it's going to, if I flip out of this, it's going to change, and go back. Let's look at study guide. So study guide is another one. So study guide, we can get help me learn and prepare. Choose pages to create. So I can do. I want a summary. I want topic pages. I don't know, maybe matching terms with different. Let's do matching. We can do flashcards and quiz and all that, fill in the blanks. That's fine. So this is a study guide. So if you have, something you need to learn, maybe you're doing a test or certifications or some sort of, and you've got notes and all that, you can put in here and it will create this sort of a study guide for you. This is just an example. You might not do a study guide in this use case, but certainly we'll look at this and see what it does. So it's drafting the outcome, and it's going to kind of go on. Now we're going to go over to the OneNote look, and we're going to see, we should see that study guide pop up here in created content. It's going to create these study guides. So we'll just give that just a second, because we are in this new experience in Copilot. So, okay, it's done all of this, and now we're good. That's the study guides. That's the topics. We're going to create these study guides. It's preparing the study guides. We'll flip back over to OneNote here. They'll show up right here under created content. And so creating the study guide, there they are. There's the study guide matching. We'll let those kind of load out here. Now, I know it's confusing right now because we're bouncing between the OneNote version, OneNote look, but it does show the integration between OneNote and the Copilot app in the Copilot Notebooks. So if you're used to using OneNote and you're in there for other things, then by all means, your notebooks will show up inside of OneNote, Copilot notebooks, and so you can just stay there if you want. But I am showing you because it is changing the Microsoft is, at least in my tenant, is currently changing the view from the older, really kind of boring view to more of this stuff, buttons here that we can click and get things to really happening. So we can see it's building out these study guides. It's still doing, it's got a couple more. It's building 7 of them total. We're going to go here and look, we can see some of these study guides as coming up here. So for example, we look at this study guide. I could pop this open while it's happening. Maybe. All right. So here's the topic overview. So it's given me all kinds of information about that particular topic, which is investment and resource planning. Everything in my references here, it's saying, based on that topic, here's some things you would want to know about. So here's some exercises, here's questions. What are the 4 main categories of investment in a typical resource planning budget, right? And so gives you the answers and all of that. So anyway, it's kind of a study guide. You may not use it for this use case, but certainly definitely has a lot of value in other use cases. Infographic is really interesting. I'm going to get to a couple of these. So it's going to we can create a spreadsheet, we can create a document, basically a summarized document, a summarized spreadsheet, but you kind of get the idea in a presentation. We'll give you a really nice presentation. I'm going to do two things real quick. I'm going to do an infographic because I really like the infographic, and we're just letting it go to work on it. And so it's using a ton of advanced reasoning here with Copilot under the hood, and we're going to let that go. So it's creating this graphic. We're going to see over here that will show up here under the content. We'll see this. But again, if you use the OneNote and you want to stay in OneNote and you want to use OneNote for other things that you would traditionally do, like notes and just regular notes. You can have a single pane of glass and see all your and build and create all your Copilot notebooks as well as your OneNote notebooks and do that tight integration there. So really cool stuff. So we're gonna let this infographic work here, and then so there's the infographic. It is building. Let me pause here for a second because this could take just a few minutes, and then we'll come right back when this is completed. All right, that did not actually take that long. It finished up pretty quick. Anyway, here is what we got, and this is just fascinating to me because this is an infographic, and this is new now. This is rolling out this piece. In fact, it's partly in the Frontier program. But here, based on my data that was in my references here, it found, for my maybe some assessments and all of this, it found this data. So 1,100 Social Security numbers identified, 85 confidential contracts improperly shared. Security assessment is 38% of SharePoint sites is open to broad audience, and just a ton of really cool budget proposal. Copilot licenses, purview expansion, training, consulting, etc. Just a ton of really cool stuff here inside this, and of course we get this inside of OneNote as well, if that's where you would rather do your work for Copilot notebooks. So that is that. Yeah, and so then when it comes to create, if we create we can create a presentation. If we're going to do an executive summary, for example, while that is loading up there, we will do one final thing. It's actually working on this. So it's create a presentation using attached references. Output should not have content outside the references. Okay. So it's doing that. So it's creating this executive summary. You've put all the data together. You've compiled all your information, and this should look very much like the PowerPoint agent if you use that. I'm going to say this is going to executive leadership. We can say we want this format, and let's go. So this looks exactly like the PowerPoint agent inside of Copilot. Very cool. So we're going to run that, and it's just going to give us a summary, this executive summary of, again, only data that is found inside the notebook. That's chats, that's any references we've added, that's any content we've created in there, but it's only contained inside the notebook. So this is the OneNote version look of that, and then of course this is what Copilot is currently spinning up here, and we'll let that do its thing. One other thing I'll show you while that's happening is, and we can do additional stuff here as far as the presentation goes, is we can add somebody else to the notebook. So if I were to go in and I were to add, I want to collaborate with Liam on this notebook, and Liam, I can send this over to Liam. I'm going to invite Liam. Okay. So now Liam is a collaborator, and I can, of course, edit his editor or remove. You cannot do just view only. It's editor. It's collaborative right now. What does not come over is the chats. The chats that I have asked Copilot in this notebook do not come over. We'll take a look at that. So Liam's going to go in and we're going to see Liam's going to get a email just like anything else when it's been shared with him. I've invited him to this. And so we're going to go in here to Liam and we're going to open this notebook. Okay. And so I am logged into Liam. And Liam now has access to this this notebook here. And some of the things are still being created. He's not seeing this in real time, so it will take it a minute, like the created content that were created here, like the PowerPoint presentations currently be created. We'll refresh here and see what we get, and also see if we stay in the. Okay. But we go over here, and if we go to chats, Liam does not see any chat history because the chat histories do not come over. Okay, just to be aware of that. So Liam would have his own personal chats that he can, ask the notebook of. But again, all the same things here, and so that's how you would share a notebook. And so we will see what's happening here with our presentation. It is still working on that. I think that's the last thing we're going to do. As soon as this is, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. As soon as this is done, we'll take a look at it and just see what it produced. If you've worked with the PowerPoint agent, then you know that it does pretty good work here. So we may be, so this may be slightly redundant in that regard. But otherwise, let me pause and we'll come right back and look at the final things and we'll wrap it up. Thanks. All right, we are back, and it is still kind of chugging away a little bit. In fact, if we look over here on the Copilot side, it's still working on it, but my OneNote has actually started presenting this PowerPoint to us. So we'll go ahead and flip through real quick. Now it is currently in you can only view only here, just like the agent. Until you download it, or move it, then you can edit it. But right now, so we see this executive summary, this executive leadership review, the Copilot deployment. And so we're going to scroll through the slides here, and it gives us all of the data that we pretty much found inside of our resources, and it is kind of give us that executive summary of everything that's there, some risks, and some sensitive data that we saw. We saw the 1,100 Social Security numbers and 85 confidential contracts that were not shared properly, etc. So it's just reporting back at high level everything that's found inside the notebook that should be of note, and then any references. We'll see if this is pulled up over here. So the Copilot app is taking a little bit longer than it did actually in OneNote. OneNote was pretty quick. So anyway, that is our notebooks. And of course, we got all of this here. We can flip back to the infographic and take a look at that. And so got a little bit chugging away right now, so it's taking a little bit of time. But that is that's notebooks inside of Copilot. Some of the changes that are literally in flight. We see this even from a couple different personas inside of my environment. We see the Copilot application looks different depending. And then, but within Notebook, we get our OneNote, we get a pretty consistent look. And I really just like working with Copilot Notebooks here, because even here, we can go in. If we go home here, we can go in and we can create a new notebook, right from here, right? So we can go in and just create a new notebook. So you really don't even need to be in the Copilot application at all if you live inside of OneNote. So anyway, that's it. That's Copilot Notebooks as it stands today, and as well as the integration with OneNote. And I hope this has been helpful for you, and thanks for watching.